conversation the other day with a subscriber to the YouTube channel, and it was a blast. It was so much fun. This person is a fellow COO, and we actually had similar backgrounds, as it turned out, and so it was great to chat. One of the things that we were talking about was hiring. Now, who here has hiring challenges? It's been interesting in the post-COVID world when we have the Great Resignation and we have quiet quitting, which really, I'm just wondering, and I'd love to hear comments and feedback. Quiet quitting to me, and I guess I'm an older person when I say this, is a little more work to rule, where people are putting up boundaries between the work-life bounds that may have gotten blurred over the last few years when a lot of people worked remote and home. And like me, I have a home office, and sometimes you can find yourself very easily working late, working weekends, and not giving yourself time to mentally come down from the weekend and have fun and do some of the other things that create passion in your life. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. We were talking about team though, and she had in her company, they have a great hiring question. And I wanted to share that great hiring question with you because it leads into a bit of a fun story and a little bit about our culture. Maybe you kind of get a feel for it when we are speaking. She said during the interview, they asked the question, Star Wars or Star Trek? Now, why is that important? Now, it brought up for me that this past year, I have missed every other May the 4th be with you date. And I said to myself, I'm definitely not going to miss that for my team and my clients this year. And so I did use Snapchat and I had a little fun, and I did a May the 4th video, and apparently it was well received, which is great. It was very hilarious. And 2 days later, something showed up at my door. One of my team members. It didn't actually come with a name on it, so I had no idea who had sent me this. I did know, obviously, why it was sent in the first place. But you've got to have a little fun. And it turned out that one of my fractional COOs, she's got a great sense of humor as well. She decided, hey, you know, we got to get you ready for Halloween. So that wig has now made it through 7 meetings, and we have to have a little fun in our day, right? But it does bring up the question, how do you find your tribe? How do you make sure that you find the right people for your team and your company? That question, Star Wars or Star Trek? That's a great question. They know if it's either one or the other that they're more likely to associate with certain things. And I am not sure that I've had anybody answer a question like that that doesn't also then go into the why. And the why can be very insightful. So I wanted to take a moment on today's video, and I wanted to share with you an interview between myself and Bob. Bob is an incredible member of my team. He is our Chief Culture Officer. And so Bob is an integral part of our hiring process. Let's take it away. Let's hear from Bob about hiring and team. I'd like to introduce him, very excited about this. I'd like to introduce you to Bob Molle. He's a member of my team. Bob is an accomplished business development consultant, coach, speaker, and author. With over 20 years of experience, Bob brings proven success strategies and a client-driven focus to his role here. Bob's background in competitive sports, both as a former Olympic athlete and as an award-winning coach, are key in his ability to bring together a high-performance team and lead them to success in a wide range of corporate ventures. He's also the author of Get Comfortable Being Uncomfortable, trust me, there's a thing about this, and where he writes about the principles that have guided his successes in both business and sports. Bob, welcome. I am so glad that we are going to have an amazing conversation today about team and fit, and probably hint a little bit on culture. How are you doing today?
All the above. Looks like full day.
It does. You and I could probably talk about this for hours.
We maybe talked about it before in our past.
Just a
little bit.
We sure have. All right. So what I have said to our viewers, to our CEOs who are watching today, is that we are going to go over 4 things. We're going to talk a little bit about our own hiring process internally. We're going to talk about fit. We're going to talk about what happens if you don't have the fit. And then we're going to talk about your tips and your lessons from all of your clients, knowledge about what's working right now, given everything that's going on at a macroeconomic level in the world. Ready?
Ready.
All right. So we talk a lot about fit. I think the first time you and I got together with respect to Scaling Management Consulting Group, you said, Susan, do you have your core values yet? And we have our rules of engagement, is I believe the term that you had used. So we've talked about that in a previous video, so I don't want to hammer down on that one, but that is something that we use within our hiring process, isn't it?
Correct. And credit to you, you bought into it right away too. Like the enthusiasm for it to say, who are we hiring, right? And what is a good fit?
Super important to make sure that we have all of those right pieces on the chessboard as we are growing a business together. And I find it's important so just to go back to the Scaling Management Consulting Group and how we hire our fractional leaders, we have found that, for example, we have some great places on LinkedIn where our fractional leaders hang out. And so we did discover that, which is, yay, super exciting, because sometimes I know with some of my teams, that is a big challenge of where to actually find the talent. But once they come in, the first thing they do is they have a 30-minute meeting with me. And so I'm just laying out the vision, it's super important, laying out the core values and learning more about them. It's all about building that relationship, core value number 2, right? And then if I'm happy with that, what do we do next, Bob? Do you remember?
You usually hand it off to me, but the biggest piece that we do, I don't know how many steps you want to go through this, but one of the steps you've always done is we always go do a strength finder too, right in there. Right.
We do. And you have an absolute great reason why we focus in on the strengths finder. And I love it. I think your story goes back to school, doesn't it?
It does. We call it the report card. So unfortunately, I learned it after school. Wish I would have learned it in school way back in the day, but I got a great story about that one. But yeah, a lot of people. And what we've done, we found this over numerous years, the report card, where a short story for you that, I give an example, like my daughter comes home from school and maybe she was grade 7 at the time, and my daughter Sarah comes in and shows me her report card, and she's got 4 A's, and we're really happy with that. But on the bottom of the report card, there's a big F. And most people, what's our natural progression? What are we going to have? What's the conversation going to be about, right? We got 4 A's and an F, and they see the F and they're, well, what's this all about, right? And people, because we've been taught at school always to look at the weakest and work on that. It's actually the opposite of what we should be doing. It's a different way of thinking. Susan, you and I have talked about the context, like looking at something differently. And I even learned that even more so when as an Olympic wrestler, because all I did was focus on the 3 things I was good at. And actually the guy, I lost to in the Olympic final. He taught me that we're just going to focus on the 3 things we're good at. And just not too many people think about that. We've been taught at a young age, unfortunately, to look at all, what are the weakest ends. So this is a different way of looking at how we're going to hire people. We look at their strengths and then get the strengths together and say, boom, you're going to focus on this. And a prime example of that would be something like numbers or something, accounting. I don't do accounting, right? It's not my game. Don't enjoy it. And so don't do the analytical part of my business. No difference than if my daughter Sarah turned around, came home with that F, and I give an example of, okay, what is that course in? And she goes, Dad, it's trigonometry. And I go, okay, good. And said, I hate the class and I hate the teacher. And I was just like, okay. And we focused on that. But unfortunately, maybe me as a parent, I would go turn around and then okay, I'm going to ground you. You know, you're not going out Friday, Saturday night. Number two, I'm going to probably take away your cell phone so you're not working on that all the time on Facebook or something like that. And I'm probably going to give you a tutor or two so we can up that trigonometry. And unfortunately, she looks at me and says, Dad, I hate the course. I hate the teacher. And after I just grounded her and everything, she hates me. And just a different way of looking at it. And then let's go flip it on its head and let's go, Sarah, let's look at your A's. What are your A's? And Dad, you know what? This is my best course. I love this. And what's this in? You know, fashion and design. And my daughter actually went with the marketing department in Lululemon. She sets up, you know, she can look at something visually and just go, oh, she does all the front advertising for Lululemon out of Brisbane that when she was there at their head office, and you know, could put it all together and even, yeah, Dad, you put this over here and you put this over here and put this color here and that backsplash and all the front windows and everything. She knows how to design it. It comes natural to her, right? She just loves it. And that's her A. Well, we should focus on the A and how do we take that A and even make it maybe an A plus, right? And we just, more and more research shows that, guess what, we're driving the A's. And the beautiful thing about that, when their confidence goes up, not only does their confidence go up because you've talked about the A's, those goes A pluses, but actually your F actually goes up too because your confidence belief system goes up too. So it's just a different way of looking at things. So what do we look at? We always look at the strengths, right? What's the best part of their game they can bring to us? We don't look at the negative part of it. We look at the positives and not that.
We definitely focus in on how do we put somebody, setting them up for success, putting them in their sweet spot. That's really important, because if they're not engaged and passionate at what they're doing, man, it is a drain. Now, the Strength Finder is a really interesting one. So, I mean, like a lot of us who have done all these different ones between DISC and Strength Finder and Culture Index and Predictive Index and all of them, and they're out there. I love languages. That was a new one a few years ago. I was like, really? But I like the Strength Finder because that's how it focuses. That's the great way to do it. We did find, and I know you and I chuckle about this every time we're doing hiring, there is a consistency to our fractional COO profiles, isn't there?
It like comes up and just boom, the profile. And we can talk about that because we do a personality assessment after we find out their strengths and see if the personality actually is going to be a fit for us. And we found one personality. You and I start giggling actually because we get it and it pops out and then it goes boom, and it goes like that. We go, same personality. We just look at each other. We start smiling because, well, credit to you because you believe in the process. Now we have a process in place where a lot of people try to just do gut instinct stuff. And we do our processes every time. We do, you know, we do our interviews, we do our Strength Finder, we do our personality assessment. We know what I mean? And then we look for at the back end of it, obviously, again, biggest thing I always think about, what did we miss? You know what I mean? And where's the black swan in this one if it does? But the personality actually comes out once we've done it, and we're recruiting those people too. Actually, naturally, they come to us. So the Lifeline personality has been, we start giggling after because it fits to a T.
Exactly. We're all those servant leaders. I
Yeah.
love it. So they come in, they have their conversation with me. They come in and then they have their Strength Finder. Then they go over to the conversation with Bob. And although it's booked for 30 minutes, it's never been 30 minutes. I've never, ever seen a conversation with you go for that long, because everybody just loves talking to Bob. And Bob's awesome. And then after the conversation finishes with Bob, you and I get together and we talk again. And if we are both in alignment with what happens and what we see, then either it is a release to succeed elsewhere. If it's much more of, and the biggest reason I find you and I release to succeed somewhere would be that it's more of a transactional piece, which doesn't fit with the core value of building relationships, because we're all about delivering the value and building that long-term relationship for the health of the business. Mm-hmm. And if it is a fit, then they come on board. And of course, it's that nurturing sequence to bring them in and get them all set up on the team. So I love that. It's a fun process. And like anything within our team, we are always iterating that process. So for example, in the future, we are probably going to be having a different person sit in that first seat, because I will be having a COO myself who does that, and they'll be focused in there, and I'll probably do a third interview as opposed to sitting in and doing both interview 1 and interview 3. So iterations, but the concept of making sure that it's all about the fit for the team and making sure we get to know these people and do skills inventories and all of those things so that we can properly serve our clients.
Core values where you bought into it right away, and then the trust factor too. Nothing goes forward unless you have that trust factor right off the bat, that integrity with the person too. I can't ever underestimate the value of that. When you have trust with someone, it just, a lot of people don't look at that. They'll look at, what degree they got or anything like that. But I find you can't get past square one. I call it first base if there's not trust, 100% trust, and it's tough. A lot of people have a tough time building that because you have to get down to some hard questions with the person and at the same time. But we can't move forward unless we trust the person. I can't ever underestimate the value of that.
And I love that you said that, because it's true on both ends, whether it be the client end or the team end, right? Because we've got to be able to have both their backs. Sometimes things go awry, and then we need to be able to rush back to that trust place and say, okay, we have a problem. Let's solve the problem to make sure that the outcome we want happens. But you don't do that easily without the trust.
Oh, well, you say sometimes something might go wrong. There's some, if a file can go, anything can happen, right? A person could get sick, someone has to cover for something will go wrong. That it's called life. And so something will go wrong, that. And it's not perfect world, every day, you're going to have bumps along the road, and you just hit it right on the head, because when you do have a bump on the road, that person's got to have your back and they got to have their back to make the customer. And that just, when it builds trust and that person's got your back, you can take look at there and ask a couple questions and look back at the person and just go, hey, what do we need to do to solve this? They're not playing the blame game. They're just going, yeah, let's solve it. That's because it's about the best thing for the relationship, where a lot of people don't look at it. They're looking at dollars and cents or how much time I'm spending on this account or something, but it's all about the relationship.
It is. And the integrity. So, I mean, we've talked about fit for our team and fit for our clients, and it has to come from that place for us. I know that's not how every business operates, but fit is critically important. What happens if there's not a good fit? What have you seen?
Great question. And I just went through it with it. Is it okay to tell a story?
Yeah.
I hate you got too many stories. I was just with a client actually out of town here. I flew out last week, and I was sitting down, and they were looking at a client, and the profile didn't match what we were looking for, everything, but there was a relationship. The person knew they came from the same club that he came from. And so the owner wanted to hire the person, hadn't interviewed the person, but hey, da-da-da, and was on this group. And I was part of that group way back in the day, and didn't know the person that well, but profile came up and it was not a fit, right? But it was a tough time. Like, now you got to maneuver that and saying, okay, I know this person from here. And then just looked at the profile. You looked at all the processes. We looked actually at the string fighter wasn't a fit. You know what I mean? We were going to look at that, and then not only that, but the profile wasn't a fit, but the owner had just the same, what's the word I'm looking for? Just an affiliation with another group that he knew of, and he wanted to force that person in. And anytime you force something in, it's just what you said, Susan, not a fit. And then circled around, I said, here's what, and just, you could tell. Like, I've done it for so many years now. If the process is, you try to force that square peg into that round hole, it's not a good thing. So I said, you're going to have to, everything that shows this is not going to be a fit for our group. And then we changed direction. And actually, I met with their new CFO. And they said it couldn't be a better fit than that. And he came back and came around. But when you do not have a fit, sometimes, there's other political influences that might affect it. But if you and I talk about fit all the time, there has to be, that. And sometimes there's not a fit. And guess what? We call it release to succeed elsewhere. We let them go pretty fast. It's not gonna, you're putting a square peg in just what the biggest piece I see on the not a fit is the relationships just kill the team, right? Because someone's gonna come in there like a force of nature or something like that and cause a lot of disturbance, and it's going to disrupt your whole team, and people don't realize the magnitude of what that can do for an organization. So yeah, fits everything.
It is interesting, and the number of times that I've seen this. I had a client a while ago who did exactly that. Oh my God, this is the great person. I really like them, and I'm going to put them in this role. So typically in that particular organization, that client, I would have done one of the interviews in the hiring. That wasn't the case this time. They just came on board.
Skipped it.
Yes,
right?
Skipped it.
Missed the process.
So I found it, I thought it was funny. So I, as part of the onboarding process, I injected myself and I said, hi, I just want to meet you, say hi, welcome to the team, get to know you a little bit. And I walked away from that meeting. It was the most painful meeting on the planet. I've never experienced anything like it. And I went back to the CEO and I went, whew, that person better be a rock star at that thing because I'm worried. And sure enough, 2 months later, it blew up. It was not good. Fit. It has to be a fit with whatever the culture values is of the organization. We know for us, we are servant leaders. And if you're not in that servant leader piece when you're a fractional COO, you're less likely to succeed. And we've tried it a couple of times, but we also know that we have some other fractional leaders on our team. They don't all have the same profile. But for the COOs, it's very, very interesting to see how consistent it is across the board. And that fit element, please do not jump the queue and take advantage of all of the people on your team that you need to interview that person. I know it sounds horrible and slow, but Bob, I think you've had a great phrase, hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah. And yeah, you'll start, a lot of people go in and they'll hire on impulse. And a neat story, I was with a company last week, actually, just same thing. And is exactly what they did. They went, and you know what? It was a social function. They had everybody for drinks, like after work, and they had that. And one of the employees that they had, their husband was along, and they had drinks. And I'm thinking of looking for a different thing, but they got a couple cocktails in them. Didn't go through the processes. Thought it'd be a great hire. I met him. You met him. Yeah, after we had a couple drinks, didn't go through exactly what you said. The processes. And they hired the person for a certain position in the company, a spouse. And then not only that, but can you think of the dynamics? We had to get rid of that person because it caused so much trouble. But then it affected the spouse who was on the company too. They had to get rid of him. And then she ended up leaving too because, it's created so much family. That's a huge piece too. But I looked back on it and I said, what did you get? Well, when you lose, don't lose the lesson, right? And then I went back to both the people, and they're competent people too. And I said, what did we do for processes? You know what I mean? Skip the process. We thought we had a couple of drinks, seemed funny. I had a couple of cocktails, and they missed the processes, right? Did you do the strength finder? Did you do the interview? Did you do the personality profile? And didn't do the processes, and then ended up a hire, and it ended up being a disaster for the company, where you actually lose the finance person too, because the wife was really good. So it was a domino effect in how much damage you can do and how much loss of dollars, Susan. And then you got to hire two people to replace the two people. I'd hate to say what the dollar value if you don't do it properly. Like I'm scared to think about the dollar value on that one. That's ugly.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I know I haven't talked to you about this, but one of the things that those who are watching this video have received was actually a bonus. And I went through an 8-minute video teaching them about the cost of a mishire, direct and indirect cost. And I brushed over a little bit this particular element, so I want to dive in here. But when you have the wrong person, the amount of time and effort on the team, when you don't have that right person to address it, deal with the fallout, help the other team members. And how many people go, well, Bob, I know they're not the right person, but I really can't deal with it right now. So I'm just going to push the decision because it's painful and that's not fun, right? They're challenging conversations, and who wants that?
Yeah, asking the tough questions, right?
Yeah.
And I think Chris Voss in the Never Split the Difference probably said it best. And then finding out, where's the black swan? Where's the thing what don't you know that you should know, right? And stole that phrase from him, and it's so true in hiring. Like, what should we know about this person that we don't know? You got to ask the tough questions, right?
Oh, I got a story for you on that one.
Uh-oh.
So one of my clients, and this person, great, very capable candidate, came through, and the process on this client's particular onboarding and hiring was pretty good. They got on board, and about a month in, they then did, the person who was the direct report, right? So the leader then took a moment and Googled their name. Now, that wasn't part of the standard hiring practice to Google their name. Usually not important for this particular role, but what came up was that this person had been unfortunately in legal troubles for things involving pornography and other things that were just, like, wow. And for this particular client, that avatar, that was a very big issue. And so, what do? Well, you've got to let the person go, but you also know that you want to give them that chance. Maybe that wasn't the same person, first name, last name. How do you know? So you have to have those challenging conversations. And then you have to decide, well, okay, turned out this person actually hid that from us on purpose based on legal advice. And so there had some very specific outcomes and learnings, and don't lose the lesson, right? So now part of that particular process for hiring now says, okay, so now you got to go out and now you got to Google their name and look at their Facebook socials. And, some of that had been done, but not on Google. They looked on Facebook and they looked on other platforms. So little pieces that you just never know what's going to crop up. And when it is not a fit, you need to deal with it immediately.
Yeah, release to succeed elsewhere. Just cut all ties. Yeah, it's not a fit. And I just had one of those. Actually, a company just reached out to me and looked at a profile on a certain area. They had a whole bunch of regional offices and all their managers, and how should we rank them and everything, and who's our best manager, and they owner wanted to know a whole bunch of questions, and so we did all the profiles. I hadn't met these people. This is like said on scene, but did their profiles and obviously did their strength finder, and then I did some interviews, and I interviewed these people, and one of them was kind of middle management, but great profile. So we did our processes, and I go, oh, this one's just profiles fantastic. And I'm just, and hadn't done the interview yet. Then the second part did as their strengths and their profile were just, I said, wow, this person's a rock star. And then I go, we got them really low in the company. And I just couldn't figure it out. I go, what am I missing here? And so had a phone call. I said, person interviewed extremely well too, this, that. I said, and exactly the question I asked, I said, what am I missing here as to their to their boss at the time? And I said, got this profile, got this, interviewed extremely well. Yeah, Bob, there is one problem. And all of a sudden there's a pause on the call, right? The manager, and I'm going, what happened? And he said, Bob, if this manager go home, great when they're with people, great with customers, smart, this, that. Says by the time he gets home at the end of the day, he's already polished the bottle off. So he's an alcoholic, been with the business 20, X amount of years, and they hadn't done anything with him, but boom, knocks a bottle back. And he said, wakes in. If he shows up in the office in the morning, he said, usually hungover.
Wow.
And I said, you got to deal with that. But there was, you know what I mean? After I looked at the profile, and if I didn't ask that tough question, what am I missing here? Like, why haven't we elevated this person in the company and this and that and that? Well, time 6 o'clock rolls down, he's got a half a bottle already down by him. If he rolls in the morning, he's still hungover, and he get to his stuff. Depends when he can get his hangover done by noon, he'll start working again, and just like, wow. You know what I mean? But it's exactly what we talked about. What, you know, where's the black swan? What am I missing here, right?
Exactly. And what to do. I mean, you want to be able to be that helpful individual when you can, and set them up for success when you find something out. Another story, if I might. So in this particular case, the team I was with used Culture Index. And so Culture Index has an interesting profile where it also includes what it calls energy units. And in its energy units, it has a top graph and a bottom graph. And the top graph is your natural state, and the bottom graph is how you flex for work. And so if it's greater than 10 units different between your top graph and your bottom graph, the point is to ask why. And in this particular case, they had, again, a great person, great employee, had been amazing long-term with the company. And you get to the point where all of a sudden you've got a new manager that they report to, and performance tanked. Looked at the graphs, and the EUs are all over the place. And so it's the thing that says, I got to dig into this, and I got to ask the question why. It turned out that the person this one was reporting to looked like her childhood abuser. Oh, she never said anything. If we didn't know to ask, if we didn't have a warning piece, we would never have asked the question to be able to identify that we could actually fix this whole situation by just changing reporting structure. So you didn't have to report to the person that reminded you every day of childhood abuse. Like these little pieces that some of the team members, I find, they won't necessarily open up and speak up and say, you know, I need help with this, or this isn't working for me because it's not necessarily a bad fit. Sometimes there's just another reason that comes up in life. And that's a perfect example for it. And so, you know, really, when you look at what do we do when it's not the right fit, we start with digging in. We got to figure out, we got to ask those questions, those hard questions, and have those hard conversations. If you had one piece of advice, Bob, about what happens when it doesn't appear that someone's the right fit, what would that be?
One piece of advice, I got a couple with.
All right, if you want more than one.
Yeah, not a fit, and that to me, yeah, you know, my HR value on that piece, it's just definition of insanity. You know, we can't
same thing over and over.
And you're not going to get a better result. A lot of people do it, like, and best thing you can do is release to succeed elsewhere. You know, and we have to do that. And some people have a problem with that because they maybe bought a merged company. I've seen it where you've merged companies together, and they go, yeah, but he's been with us or she's been with us for 20 years. Still same problems occurring all the time, right? And guess what people do? Oh, he's okay person, you know, stuff like that. And if you're going to drive results, come on, let's be really factual here. You know, we need good people. You know, it's always about getting the right people on the bus, right? And we always want to upgrade our team and get better results, better this. And if people are in that, we're all for it. But you know, definition of insanity kicks in on that one. We need to upgrade our team all the time. It's no different than any pro football team, pro hockey, whatever you're dealing with. They go into a draft every year. Why? Because they're going to upgrade their team. They want to get better, right? And there's a mentality of that we should always think about. Let's upgrade, and hopefully our employees and everybody else, they want to upgrade all the time and get better.
You know, and a lot of people also think about it from the perspective of the team member. You know, woe is them. I don't want to, you know, give them a pink slip. But if they're not happy and they're not engaged, then shouldn't they have the chance to be engaged and happy in whatever it is that they're doing in life? And they probably won't take that step themselves.
You're actually doing them a favor. Lots of time where they get a wake-up call and go, okay, here, maybe it's not a fit, and we should find something that they're passionate about because it's not there. You know, birds of a feather flock together. You'll find people. The beautiful thing, and you're finding already, is we find out we grow our business that we actually attract that kind of talent now.
Correct.
And so people go back and they'll go back to other people that, oh, guess what? This great company, we're working with it. Oh, who's that with it? Susan and Bob. And they get excited about it. They start telling other people, and it's the same personality type, actually, because they get along with them. They're attracting into our company, which gets exciting. We start giggling. Guess who we got on our side? And then, you know, you and I giggled about it a few times where you start attracting that talent, and that talent attracts more talent, birds of a feather flock together, well, they'll actually bring talent to your business. And we're already seeing the fruits of that labor now, where where people say, guess what, you need to talk to da 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 da, and they got the right. And so it actually becomes a recruiting tool for us. Your thoughts?
Oh yes, and it works. It's beautiful. As we started out last year, because it's only been 18, 19 months that we changed our business model and made it a scalable business versus a solopreneur business. And so as you need talent, it's been quite fascinating, right? So we had, for our first rounds of hiring pieces, we had to go out, we had to do postings, but we don't have to do that anymore. Our whole last round came in by referral.
Yeah, people know that this is the right environment. You're going to thrive in this, and this is why I like it. So they become like an ad for you, just about, where, you know what I mean? It's self-fulfilling prophecy, where they turn out and help recruit their friends and people that know the lifestyle that they want to lead and everything, and the environment that it's a positive environment. Then they recruit for you. So it's
And they're
nice
incredible.
situation.
Yeah. Well, you have more. How to say more? You have different teams that you are consulting with and helping out, and you've got a lot more diversity focused in on this area of building the right teams with the right people in the right places. My final question today, Bob, super hard.
Uh-oh.
You ready? What are the top teams? What are people doing right now? What's the top 1 or 2 things that they are finding and you're finding this puts the right person in the right seat to make all the difference to the business owner and the business itself?
Great question. Because there's so many different companies I work with. I've worked with the engineering firms. I work with all kinds of things. You actually hit it earlier on in the piece where we talked about the word fit. Like, what are we looking for? You know what I mean? In this position. And a lot of people don't ask that question. Like, what is that? They look maybe for the degree. Oh, they got a master's in this, in engineering. They got this, they got that. And what people find out is a fit is the most crucial thing. Do they get along with the people in the office? Do that? And I think it's one word that I'd use, and actually stole it from you, because you started off early in the cases. The fit seems to work out extremely well. What's the end? I think I stole a line from, I apologize, I think it was Albert Einstein. What do you want this person to do, right, in the organization? Get along with people, XYZ, maybe 3 kind of corner points that what do you see of this person in being successful? And I think it was Albert Einstein that wrote the article. I may have to go back and look at that one, where he says, if you judge a fish on how it's going to climb a tree, it's like, you know what I mean? You're not going to get very good results. So a lot of people judge it maybe just on the degree. Oh, they got their MBA, or they got this. But if they don't have good relationship skills, and your relationships are a big value of your company, it's not going to be a fit. And then they're arguing with someone. The MBA doesn't mean anything to us, right? So what does this person really need to do in the organization? And if they develop relationships, that we talked about, got good integrity, under promise, and they're inclusive, they help everybody, team effort, and everybody chips in. They said, oh, that's the piece. So let's take a look at what we're evaluating this talent on, where a lot of people will just go, that's the biggest thing. So steal from a line from you, fit, you can't. What's the end result? What do you want this person to do, right?
Super important.
Bob has an incredible superpower, being able to hire the right talent, put them in their sweet spot, and build a team for growth, setting the company, the clients, and the team up for success. It's a win-win-win all around. What can you implement today, right now, from Bob's tips on your team?
Like this video if you found it helpful. And for more content just like this, subscribe to our channel or visit the Scaling Management Consultant Group website at scalinggrp.com or our new website at scalingresources.com.